Hey everybody, it's the Herb Guy with the Elder Herb Shop, and welcome back to our Science Meets Nature channel, where we discuss the medicinal value of plants and other natural substances found in nature all around us, with a little bit of science thrown in because we can. Today's going to be something a little bit different. We're headed to a house with some Amish people, and I'm doing an actual workshop for them. It's very similar to some of the other workshops that I've done. I'm going to teach them how to identify the plants. I'm going to teach them how to dig them up and process them and use them, so that way they have a better idea of how that works. Now, I don't know if they're going to necessarily let us film this, so I'm recording this part of it here now, so that way if they do allow us to film, it's going to be on a rather limited basis. So we're on our way there, we're headed to their home, and once we get there, we'll make sure that we have their permission to be able to go ahead and film. And I have my handy-dandy assistant, Leland, with me today. And we are headed out. We are about a mile away from their home. He's going to be the cameraman today, and hopefully you guys stay tuned. This could be a rather lengthy video, so if you have some time, grab your popcorn and get ready, because this could be a long ride. Stay tuned. Typically speaking, it's used for like parasites, so people can give it to animals and whatnot, and it gets rid of like worms and other type of internal parasites. It's good for fungus. You can actually make a little cream out of it, but you got to be careful, because once you've opened it, I don't know if you've ever dealt with these when they're still green like this. They stain everything, and it'll turn everything like dark brown, and you can't hardly get it off. So it's best if you use gloves, and if you're going to use it as an extract, put it in alcohol right away, right? And if you get it in alcohol right away, A, it won't turn brown, where some of the benefits will actually go away, and B, when it's in the alcohol, it'll stop it from going. It'll stay green, and that's when you really want to have your extracts pulled out. And
you mean when they turn brown, then
they're not as good. There's a lot of people that actually won't use them, and they won't buy them from you if they say, you know, if your black walnuts are brown, because they say that once they turn brown, they've lost the properties. I don't necessarily agree with that, right? Because I've used it in different situations over the years, whether it was brown or green, and you get the same results. But if you really want the freshest, right, you put it in the alcohol, and then once it's in the alcohol, use like a potato smasher and smash it up, because you want as much surface area.
Just the green outside.
Just the green outside, yeah.
What about the walnuts inside?
They're good.
Does that have any benefits like warming?
You get some omega-3s. They have some protein in them. There's some essential fats that your body does need, you know. But I mean, other than that, it's no different than any other nut. You know,
outside green shell is what does the deworming and stuff.
Yep, the outside part. Yep, and then you know, obviously you'll take that part off too. But if you're just making an extract out of it, you don't have to do that. Just cut it around, like I was showing Leland earlier. Cut it around in like a circle, all the way around, and it'll pop right off. And that's the part.
The
inside part where it's all. But look, it's already starting to turn brown. It just got exposed, and it doesn't take but a few minutes. So what I normally do with it when I've done that is I'll cut it up into small pieces and then throw it in the alcohol when I'm making an extract. Now, in regards to making extracts, the best way to extract the medicinal value from any herb is to use alcohol. If your concern is having alcohol in your medicine, you cook it down, right? So if you have, say you have 75% alcohol, right? You go ahead, you put it in your water and everything, and then you cook it down. After a while, the alcohol will go away, and the only thing that will be left is the water. And then you add an equal amount of glycerin, vegetable glycerin, and then you cook it down to half again, and then you'll have your tincture. Your tincture will be fairly concentrated. Everything will be in the extract. The downside to it is heat will sometimes mess with the properties of the plant. So they won't be necessarily as effective if you cook them
and
versus...
you just make alcohol extract and not heat it.
Yeah, and to be fair, you know, what they say is that one dropper of extract has about as much alcohol as a loaf of bread, so, or a couple slices of bread. So you're not really getting, because the yeast is in the bread, and it does have a form of alcohol in it. So it's just real mild, and you don't notice it. Same with the drops. if you put one dropper in, say, a cup of water, you'll never know the difference. You'll never know what's in there, other than if it tastes really bad. Then you might, wormwood, if you get something like wormwood and put in there, you'll definitely know it's there, because it tastes so terrible. But other than that, you're not going to taste the alcohol part of it. So, but that's your black walnut, and it does stain really quick. So, okay, you can stop now. So, here's what you'll find. Most of these plants that we have out here, he's very careful.
Yeah, I know, but you don't want to be in the way.
No. Most of the plants we have out here help with congestion or lung issues or sinus issues. You know, most of them have at least that benefit. Like with Smartweed, this is one of those plants. It's good for fevers. It has, you want to use like the whole plant.
Could you make like tea with that for
Yep,
fever?
absolutely. And, you know, wash off the roots really well. Typically speaking, I just wash them off and hang them just like that from the roots. And after a while, the plants they'll stay green, so you'll have more of the chlorophyll and the other beneficial properties from it. The flowers are good too. Even if it goes to seed, you can still use that. The seeds still have the benefits. Yeah, this is a fairly good herb. It's also good for skin conditions, like if you have rashes or burns. It does help with healing. And it's another one of those plants that's everywhere. It's one of those. We don't mind it over at our place too much. We didn't get any until we filled our garden up, and then poof, it was everywhere. But yeah, this is a good plant, and it's all over through here. The wild carrot is also good, and your rose hips. Over this way. This part of the rose.
Is that what you call rose hips?
Yeah, and they're red. When they're red like that's when they're ripe. You can take them and just set them over by your oven or something, not where it's hot, but warmer. And they're sweet. You can add them to any tea, and it'll actually add a little bit of sweetness to it. They're loaded with vitamin C. We're getting ready to make an anti-wrinkle cream, and this is one of the ingredients for it, is the anti-wrinkle cream, because it also has some omega-3 fatty acids. It has some essential components and compounds in there that help with like making your skin more elastic, and it seems to absorb better. You know, the problem like in the winter and stuff, it starts getting, your skin will crack. Yeah, that's not a bad one. Then the rose flowers themselves, if you can save those in the spring and put them in like oil, you can use the scented oil as like a rub for rashes and eczema and psoriasis and things like that. And it doesn't smell bad either, you know. And a good oil to use, try to get like avocado or grapeseed oil, because those also have like vitamin E and other vitamins in them that you can use in conjunction with what's in the rose hips, and or even the rose flowers and buds, and it'll help with that stuff too. And it'll last, you know, as long as you keep it out of the sun, it'll last forever. That's the trick though. If you
What, I mean, how do you know if you got the right, we're not getting something that's poison?
Well, you can tell it's a rose because look at all the thorns on it. You know, that's one of the only plants that'll be out here about this time of the year. This is when they're starting to go red. I just started harvesting a bunch yesterday, and when they get red like this, they're actually fairly easy to harvest. I think we ended up getting a couple pounds, and I got it in maybe 20 minutes. But I kind of clipped them off as I went, so that way I could keep them. But they're not bad. Let's see. Want to try one? Eat it.
I want to taste one.
One of the red ones. The redder they are, the more sweet they are. They're not quite as good at this time of the year, but you can taste that sweetness when you first bite. Yeah, and then of course there's a lot of seeds and stuff in them, but you can make a good tea if you want to add like your peppermint. It'd be a great addition to the peppermint tea. Yeah, that's a really.
Now, where did you see a wild carrot?
These are your wild carrots
I
here,
was wondering if those.
and they taste just like carrots. They have the natural inulin, but they're not as sweet. And trust me, they're definitely not as sweet. And if you get anything older than about 3 years, it's going to be like trying to eat wood, because the root will get really super hard. But if you get it 3 years and younger, you can actually cut it with and cook it with your carrots. You can can it like you would your carrots. You could use it with the yellow dock that we'll talk about later.
You mean you would use the roots?
Yeah.
Would that have more?
Okay. Now seeds can be used too medicinally, but be very, very careful with the seeds. And if you're pregnant or if you're nursing, do not use them. The seeds are considered an abortifacient, so it's a bad thing for a pregnancy. You know, so that's not one it's one you definitely want to stay away from. But it's just the seeds. the seed part of it. Same with
What's
the burdock.
those white flowers?
That's a type of daisy.
It's not really a herb or...
It is. It looks like a fleabane. Actually, it is a fleabane. In some countries, they use it for, you can tell because it looks like, they look like eyelashes.
I see,
When the petals are so fine. Get a close up on the petals real quick. Okay, pull it back out. But you can make a tea out of that, but just the leaves and the flowers. And it's supposed to help with like seizures and cramping. If you have too much cramping or your muscles are getting really sore, you can use it for that. They consider it a general overall tonic, which is something that just kind of helps give you a boost or a little bit of a better feeling.
But how did you say you call them?
Fleabane. Fleabane. This one looks like the Philadelphia fleabane. There's like 3 different kinds. You'll see another one that has the same kind of flowers, but the leaves will be like really broad and kind of serrated. You see how small the leaves themselves are?
But how do you spell that word?
Fleabane. You can actually use it as like an insect repellent. You can make a hydrosol out of it, boil it, and make a tea. And in theory, you can spray it on yourself, and it keeps bugs away. There's plenty of other herbs that work better for that. So, I mean, I've never really tested it for that. But that's, in some cases, some people have used, they've made like a really heavy concentrated tea and sprayed it in their house to get rid of fleas, or put it on their animals to make the fleas go away. But you can make a lighter tea out of it for yourself as a general overall tonic. It's good for your kidneys. Kind of gives your kidneys a bit of a boost, and it helps it's a diuretic like most herbs that we have out here anyway. So it'll help with water flow and help get excess water out of your body, which, you know, sometimes if your feet or your legs will get all swollen and have too much fluid in them, you know, this kind of one of those that helps relieve that. Dandelion is another excellent one for that, but we'll go into dandelion a little bit later. That's got has a lot of properties. I don't see any right along here, but the one right over here against this flowers on it, it's called goldenrod. That one is one of the few herbs that are out here that help with sinus issues. If you have like runny nose all the time, or you get allergies really bad, this plant is usually the one that they accuse of being the one responsible for hay fever and sinus issues, but it's really quite the opposite. The flowers, this is one, the milkweed, or the ragweed that happens right around this time of the year. You'll see the big white pollen that goes flying everywhere. Well, they accuse this plant of being that way. But this plant doesn't have pollen that flows that way. It needs bugs to pollinate it and make it spread. Wind will like spread the seeds and whatnot, but unlike ragweed, it doesn't spread like that. There's another one of these. If you turn it upside down and dry it, you can use the whole plant, root and all. Grind it all up, and it helps with like sinus issues, sinusitis. People have colds and flus or bacterial infections in their lungs. It helps to alleviate that and get rid of some of those problems. The leaves are really easy to get off. How I do it,
now,
like,
what would you do when you grind it up? So like, put it in capsules, or
you can capsules. You can put it in the tea. For the most part, I tend to want to use extracts. I mean, I'll drink a tea if I really have to, but the extracts seem to have more of the properties. So if you're using,
so you would just put alcohol and that in together and let it set
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, and you use a really strong alcohol. You can't go to Walmart and buy it.
Like how strong?
150 proof. So they'll call it 151 is what they say. It's basically 75% alcohol, and a little bit more, 75.25% or 75.5%. But that, and then once it's done, you add an equal part of water to it, because otherwise then it's too strong. And then when you do your dosing, you're doing your dosing by like 10 drops. So if you have like a regular dropper bottle, it's 1 dropper of it.
Would you get just as much benefit from tea?
Yeah,
More
I mean,
from extracts.
Well, okay, so according to the science says that the best way to get the medicinal properties out of most herbs is using alcohol. We discussed last week that with milk thistle seed's great for your kidneys or for your liver. It's like a liver booster and a liver tonic. But if it's not extracted by alcohol, you don't necessarily get all the properties, because the alcohol helps break the membrane that holds some of those compounds in. And without the alcohol, you only get some of it, and then your digestion's only going to handle some of it. So you'll get some of the properties. It'll still boost your liver. It'll still help a little bit, but not nearly as much as it would as if it's made with an extract. So, if you have Goldenseal or anything like that, that's another one that, I'm sure you probably have a ton of it out in those woods.
You mean Goldenseal?
Goldenseal, yeah, is a great herb, and if you have it, most people use the root, and that's almost a crime, because the more research I've done, the more I found that most of the benefits, without all the alkaloids that the root has, are in the leaves. The leaves have the same benefits, and they're just as effective. It kills viruses, it kills bacteria, it kills fungus, it kills it all. I mean, it's all the bad stuff, while still leaving your good flora, your good bacteria that's in your body. It still leaves that alone. But the ones that cause problems, like viruses and the microorganisms that cause real problems, the Goldenseal leaf tends to get rid of that really, really well, all by itself. And if you use it in conjunction with the black-eyed Susans that are up there, or whoever it is that has the echinacea, you're lucky, you have the echinacea, but you mix it with the echinacea, it makes it even stronger, and then not only does it help kill all that stuff.
Mix the Goldenseal with echinacea.
Yeah, that's typically what they're mixed with. But the more research I've done, I see people that just keep buying the root, and it's like, oh, it breaks my heart, because when you get the root, you kill the whole plant. And you get so many people that only want the root. They'll go through and they'll take it all out of the woods, and then next year when they go back, there's none there because they over-harvested it. Yeah, the leaves are better because
if you leave the roots there next year, it would grow back out.
Yeah, and then you just harvest the leaves, and and the more research that I've done on it, the more I found that if you're just using the leaves, you're actually okay. So the problem with Goldenseal, that they say, they have what's called alkaloids, which change the acid structure in your body, right? And part of getting rid of viruses and those kind of organisms is you want to make your body inhospitable to those kinds of things, right? You don't want them to be able to live there. Well, the Goldenseal alkaloids make your body, it does change that, but the downside to it is if you take too much, it'll start affecting your liver and your kidneys.
From Goldenseal?
Yes, the root in particular.
Okay,
the root in particular. But when you have the leaves, it has all the same compounds as the roots without all the alkaloids. So it's not causing as much damage to your body on top of still being effective against all the microorganisms you're trying to kill anyway. So this, like with this, you guys probably haven't heard too much about it, but the stupid coronavirus that they have, it's a cold. It's a common cold. Regardless of what anybody tries to tell you, it's just a stinking cold with a survival rate.
New.
Yeah, anyway, it's very frustrating. But the Goldenseal, they found, it kills the common cold virus. It kills all of that stuff. So, if we can find some, I'll point it out to you guys, and if I can get a good picture of it, and somebody has a really good memory, somebody could tear the woods apart and get a bunch of leaves, you'll be very happy you did if you get some, for sure, because that's one of the best ones out here. They found that it's actually stronger than most antibiotics that are on the market that pharmaceutical companies sell.
Not Goldenseal.
Yeah, they've tested it against all of those, and it finds it's more effective than the antibiotics are. The downside is when they give you antibiotics, is it kills everything in your body. It kills all the bacteria, your good bacteria and your bad bacteria. So once you're done with your run of antibiotics, you got to rebuild your immune system because you've just wiped it all out. Now, all the stuff that's supposed to protect you from future illness is gone now because they gave you the antibiotics, versus using something like Goldenseal or Echinacea, which would take care of the same problems. But
over there, stinging nettle, isn't that what that is?
which one here? Yep, it sure is. Leland, grab this. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, this is stinging nettle. Obviously, you want to use it when it's dried, but the leaves and the flowers, and you'll know when it's stinging nettle. You run your hand. Anybody ever been stung by it?
I've read a poem one day. If you grab it you would grab a man, it won't sting you, something like that.
Oh, baloney! That thing will still sting you. It don't care.
I never dared to try it.
Go ahead. No. It actually has an acid in it. There's an acid in it's like hundreds of little needles that are sticking out all over the place, and then inside of each of those needles, there's an acid that this plant makes. So every time it touches you, you'll get the acid in your body. And there's a ton of remedies around, and we'll, if we look close enough, we'll probably find one. Like this is a good one. Heal all. No, it's not purple anymore. Typically they have that big. Oh, I just got stung.
You said heal all.
That should have a
You
big
know
purple
about
flower. It'll get big and purple, and the leaves are like that.
Well,
It's
are
a-
they past that stage already? Or
Yeah, they're hard. They're going away. All the good stuff is starting to go. Dang, it did sting me.
well,
Yeah, I could use the heal all, but yeah, with the stinging nettle you dry it out, and if you have allergies, it's a good one to mix with the goldenrod, because the goldenrod will get rid of all the sinus issues, while this actually works as an antihistamine.
well, that's what I need.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can get some harvested and dry it out, you want to make sure it's completely dry before you drink it. But once it's dry, you can grab it all day long and you won't be stung, and the acid just kind of goes away. And you know, if you look really close, don't point it over here. If you look really close, you can see the little tiny fine needles on there. Every one of those is loaded with a little.
It looks almost like hair.
Yeah, and it's really sharp, and you know it'll got a little red spot on my finger where I grabbed it. But yeah, that's a good plant to have if you have allergies, and if you can mix it.
High in iron, too.
It is better than spinach. It has more nutrients than spinach does. Though I wouldn't recommend making a salad out of that. You know, it makes a good tea. It's not a bad tea.
I tried the least to make tea with it sometimes.
It's not
Flavor or something.
it's not very bitter. So a lot of herbs have like a real bitter, which is good. It's good for your digestion if you have bitters. But this one also has there's another compound in there.
Is it okay to use the seeds with the?
They say it is, you know, typically speaking, we grab the whole thing when we use them. So root and all, we typically do the roots separate. So we have nettle root that we sell, and then we have nettle leaf that we sell. But nettle, it's kind of hard sometimes to separate them. So you just grind it all up, and they consider it nettle leaf. But the stuff
Would
that
you gather it like now, or would you do it in the summer before they have all the seeds? That's when I gather my leaves, but maybe
that's fine.
should I wait like till now?
Well, I mean, it's not like we're ever going to get rid of nettle. So typically speaking, they say that you want to get them in the fall after they've dropped some seeds, so you're not losing any of your plants or anything. But the thing is, when it comes to nettle, you're not gonna. It's everywhere. So if you wipe out a small patch,
Wipe them out, you got a problem.
yeah, exactly. So this isn't a bad one. It really isn't. If you grab it by the flowers, you're less likely to get stung too.
Well, when I cut them with a scissor and gloves on, but when you didn't want to wash them, then I don't worry about them stinging.
Not after they've been washed, yeah.
Or even till I come into the kitchen.
Really? Well, you're a brave
Wash
woman.
my hands.
Not me. I don't like getting stung by these things. But yeah, this isn't a bad plant. You got a ton of it here.
Is this heal all too? Or is that something
It
different?
sure looks like heal all. It just doesn't have the purple. But the heal all does exactly what you think it does. It heals. It's good for like healing salves. People put them in salves and balms. If you get stung or whatever. There's other plants that I use for that. But like this one here. Plantain.
Would you put that with a healing salve too? Or?
That's actually one of the ingredients in our salve. Do you know what this one is?
Plantain, huh?
See, she knows what that is too.
I dry the leaves, and when somebody hurt or something, like in the winter, if I can't get the fresh leaves, I steep them and put them in a little hot water so it gets soft, and I put it on a...
Yeah, that's a poultice. Sure, they work great. Or if you don't have time to do that and you're out in the field, you can just chew it up and put it on there too. That works.
It even helps for a feasting pain.
It does. My son used to actually, it seemed like he used to go out and deliberately get stung so he could go find some plantain to put on it. And that's what he used to do. Thank God he's grown up and he doesn't do that anymore. You know, because that was no fun. But yeah.
Yellowed off behind you there.
Where?
Isn't it right here?
Yeah, right there in front of the nettle.
Oh yeah, sure is. Okay, this is the one that everybody seems to like, and they seem to not notice what it has. I should have brought that shovel. When you get the root out, unlike I didn't do here, it'll come out about the size of a carrot, 1 or 2 years, and it's loaded with a natural substance called inulin, which if you're diabetic, your body will recognize as an insulin, because part of the issue with the diabetes is your body doesn't necessarily absorb the insulin, or it's not producing enough of it, and then you have to get the shot in order to balance everything. It's one of those plants that you can harvest like you do your carrots. You can cook it with your carrots. You can can it with your carrots. Really nutritious. If you get to the leaves before it starts getting in the seed and they get real big, you can actually put them in salad because they're loaded with nutrients too. But I hear they don't taste very good, so better put something else in there to give you some better taste for it. But this one, it's everywhere. So if you can harvest it, if you can get a bunch of them and add them with your carrots, people that have diabetes, everywhere else in the world, in China, they'll actually take yellow dock and burdock and they'll dye them orange and call them carrots and sell them as carrots and put them with their food, because sometimes it's a little hard to grow or they can't get carrots, but these things grow everywhere. And
Is that another plant right there?
yeah, there's another one right in front of Leland here, yeah. And then there's burdock, I think. Nope, there's another one here. Yep, that's a burdock. That's another great one to have.
What do you call that right there? It's a yellow.
That's a daisy, but I don't know which one. One of the
I
forms
see
of
the
daisy.
picture of it as an herb, but I don't know what to call it really.
I want to say aster, but it's not aster because aster has purple flowers.
Now that's kind of right over there are the other flowers that look like daisies but have those look like eyelashes.
Yeah, the fleabane. Yep, more of the fleabane over there, right in there with the nettle. So be careful if you go to grab that. The thistles, if you can get to them before they get all thistly, are also loaded with nutrients. They have more nutrients. They're good for your kidneys. You can get to the roots of them. Now the roots on those aren't going to be like a burdock. They're not going to be like one heavy root. They'll be like spread out. But if you can get to the roots of those, they're kidney tonic. So people who have kidneys issues or have issues with urination or you get UTIs a lot, urinary tract infections, those help clear those out, as does dandelion is really good for that too. If you can, if you have dandelion, everybody has dandelion. If you can get some dandelion this year, that's one of the best plants you can grab. And you do the whole thing.
For kidneys and stuff.
For kidneys, yeah, and you can use it in conjunction with just about any other herb in your plantain or your burdock or other, to give your body that boost that it needs in order to be able to clean things out, especially in the winter, because most people are going to be stuck inside and you don't get the exercise you need, or you guys do, but most people don't get the exercise they need, and you get stuck inside in the winter, and so you got to be able to flush all the toxins out of your body. That's probably one of the better plants for that, really. There's 3 different kinds of plantain. There's one that looks like this, only the leaves are kind of rugged. They look kind of like this, but they're more they have bumps around the outside. If you want, I can explain that. That's also a plantain. It's called buckhorn plantain, but it has all the same properties.
Okay, those seed heads are to like long stems with just a small seed head.
Yep, on top.
And plantain has like longer seed heads.
And then or sometimes they have like a little nub on it with a little ring around the bottom.
Oh, it's the thing in the narrow
The
leaves.
narrow leaves maybe have
That one does too.
just a
Has-
small.
Well, okay, so the buckhorn ones will have one that's about yay long, and then it has a ring around the bottom where the petals are, and then that thing that sticks up is the actual seed pod. And yeah, so but you can save the whole plant, roots and all, and wash it all off and just hang them upside down by the root and dry it. And it's awful tricky there. You guys have any elderberry around?
No, we don't have. We have across the road there, but I don't like to gather things too close by the road for some reason. I don't.
There used to be some right back here.
It's been a while that I went back to.
If you could get the hold of some elderberry, that's one of the best plants you can. Well, right now, birds have probably gotten all the berries, but by next year, that's one of the best antiviral plants in the world. It kills viruses in 3 different stages of their life cycle. So when
Just the berry, you just get the berry.
yeah, and you can either make a tea out of it, make an extract out of it. They're not really good to eat them whole. They taste terrible. They're not a very sweet berry at all.
Canned them. We put water and put some in a small jar and canned them and
Sure.
drink that at 4 seed.
Sure, yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. And anybody who makes their own sauerkraut? Anybody make their own sauerkraut? Okay, so we'll come back and I'll teach everybody how to make sauerkraut. How's that sound? And
I'm
we'll-
gonna try it anyway.
it's not bad, and if you like sauerkraut, which I do love sauerkraut. It's better than anything I've had in the store.
Well, my neighbor gave me a recipe for it.
Okay, it's very simple too. It's cabbage and salt. Plus whatever happened, you want to throw some peppercorns or garlic or whatever in there, but pepper or just cabbage and salt is the two ingredients for it. And if you can make your own and save it and keep it from, don't cook it, and just take some of that juice every day or eat a few of the leaves or whatever, that'll help with your digestion. It adds probiotics to your body, and your digestion, all your healing stuck in your digestion. 70% of your body, your healing is stuck in the digestive tract. And if your digestion's messed up, most people are ill if their digestion's messed up, and then it gets even worse. So,
What kind of weeds are there by the trash?
That looks like the Smartweed still.
Okay, that's Smartweed too.
This one here?
Yes.
There's your narrow leaf plantain.
Uh-huh.
That one there. That's the narrow leaf, but it's still plantain. Has all the same properties. So you get stung by a bee. If you get stung by a bee, chew it up and put it on the sting. It'll make the pain stop. It really will.
Well, we did that already.
It's one of the worst feelings ever, too. Red clover.
Was that the Smartweed that you said is good for seizures and stuff?
Oh, that was the fleabane.
Okay, that's the sleeping.
Yes.
Okay.
Seizures and cramps and, the excessive. Yes, but I couldn't tell you what it is right offhand.
Is it mustard? Not mustard?
It might be.
I think it might be.
It almost looks like a radish leaf. If you look at the leaf, it almost looks like a radish. So yeah, I think you're right. It might be. It's not anything that I've encountered or harvested. So. Oh, there's your buckhorn.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's
You can
serrated.
see this, those things when you pull it off, just like the plantain.
That's the same plant. It just has you see how it has looks like a bug ate it all the way around the edge. That's the same plantain, but yeah, you have the 3 different kinds here too. That's awesome. Okay, we have dandelion we've covered. There's your plantain seeds. You got your creeping Charlie. This one here.
Is that creeping? I was going to ask. I have them around my raspberries.
Yep, that's the creeping Charlie, and it's
Little
congestion herb, little round, like quarter size leaves.
It's a heart
But-
shaped.
Kinda. They grow in a vine, like a long vine. If you have it like in your garden where it's getting in between your plants, you pull it up. I think it'll be 8-9 feet long. You get some really long ones, but their leaves are like this. They're
You said
spread
creeping
like
Charlie.
creeping Charlie. It's a long herb again. Good for they've used it for like tuberculosis and other lung conditions, pneumonia and things like that. Another one of those ones that you can extract with alcohol, but you can make a tea out of it, and the teas are just fine too. They just don't necessarily work as well. There goes a deer. He's flying too. See him? He's brave. The larger clover with the purple flowers is really good particularly for women. It helps with estrogen. It has a chemical compound called phytoestrogen, which is a natural form of estrogen. If you're already on some sort of estrogen supplement, do not take it, or ask your doctor first before you do, because sometimes if you get too much in your body, that could be a bad thing.
You mean
The red clover. Now the red clover is the one that has the big fat purple flower, and if you can get it, now's the time to get those if you can. If you
you
can
mean
get
the
it,
flowers or the leaves?
the whole thing. Well, I mean the roots aren't necessarily used as often.
But the leaves and the flowers.
The leaves and the flowers, and if you can get just the flowers and ferment them like you would your cabbage, they found that it has to be fermented like you would your cabbage. It stops osteoporosis, and for women that's particularly important. When you get osteoporosis, you start losing bone mass, and then your bones get thinner, weaker. They start breaking easier. The older people that break their hips and break their everything because they fell or slipped or something, that doesn't happen as much because it stops the osteoporosis. Period. It just
And
makes
that's
it go away.
just the fermented flour.
Just the fermented. Now they have some where they've taken an extract, right, and that helps with like heat flashes and menopausal symptoms where you have the mood swings and things like that, but it doesn't do anything for the osteoporosis. But when they ferment the flour and just the flour, it stops it.
What do they mix it with?
So just like exactly like you would your cabbage, for making sauerkraut. And you chop it up and you put the salt in there and let it wait for 3 weeks, strain it out, and you've got your. Now I'm also of a mind. It also, because it's fermented, it's also loaded with the probiotics for your digestion too. But I'm also of a mind that if you save those flours afterwards, you're not going to get all the properties out in the fluid. So there's going to be some of that bacteria left over in the flour material. You dry it up, you grind it up, you put that in the capsules, and you have another probiotic that you can use when you run out of the extract, if that makes sense. Because it'll still be there. It'll still be in the plant. It doesn't die off. It'll just stay there. And then you grind it up and make sure it doesn't get hot or too cold to kill the bacteria. And then you can encapsulate it. And
we were talking about probiotics the other day.
Mm-hmm.
What about, I didn't remember what you said about prebiotics. That's the same family?
It's part of the same family. You got some that work a little bit further up in your digestive system, right? It helps it before it gets down to your stomach, that area, and then you got your other ones, the probiotics that are deeper in your intestines and your colon. He's almost losing his tarp.
Yeah, he's ready to scare a horse.
Oh yeah,
what
that would,
about
wouldn't it?
Colostrum, or however you call that word.
Oh yeah,
Colostrum pills.
I'm not a fan. I'm not. I've heard that in some cases they prescribe it. It's other people's poop. So.
You mean colostrum?
I don't know about that one, but I knew that some of the probiotics that they sell is actually feces from other people. And I'm okay without ever taking one of those pills. I would rather make some sauerkraut or find another way to get that rather than.
Well, yeah, I'm just glad to know that. His uncle would use, like, every now and then they would use colostrum, actually the raw milk.
Okay.
The first milking. And they say they never had, like, what was it? Chicken pox or whooping cough, some of those.
I can see that being a thing. Yeah, a lot of these compounds
they say it immunes them for that.
I can see that being a thing. They help with your immune system.
And that's kind of called the colostrum milk or whatever you call it. Say. And then I was just kind of wondering what you would say about the colostrum pills.
I haven't done a lot of research on them, but it depends on where you get it and the source. If it's synthetic, if people made it versus it being found in nature, then it's not going to be as effective. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. But if we've made it and it didn't come from nature, I don't necessarily find it as effective. So, but I'm allowed to have that opinion. The other clover is good too, but it's such a pain to try to harvest it. The little white clover, it has the benefits.
Like over here.
Yeah, but just leave it for your animals. They'll get more benefits out of it than anybody else. Plenty of dandelion out here. Chicory. I know I saw some when I pulled in your driveway.
What do you call chicory?
That's that big purple flower that has it's about this big around. It's got the leaf, the big petals.
You mean instead of planting up front, the leaves are dead already?
Well, I know what I mean is chicory, but I'm just wondering if I'm right.
Those got purple flowers.
And they're not very beautiful.
Nope, this one wouldn't be up. This one looks almost like boneset, but the flowers are off. This looks like boneset herb.
Huh?
Ironweed.
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 Yeah, that's a.
You take it for iron or what?
It's just
This one has a purple flower.
Purple flower.
Not sure what it's good for, to be honest.
I don't know either.
I'll have to look it up. That'll be one we'll have to add in for later and do a video on that too.
It's good. It's good for ruining a pasture.
I can see that being a thing. Your horses probably don't eat it, do they? Really, oftentimes, so cows and horses are kind of dumb sometimes, in regards to what they eat. But if you watch your animals, typically speaking, they'll show you which plants are mostly safe to eat. So if they avoid it, there's probably good reason for you to do that too. Just saying, if you run across a berry and you don't know whether it's edible, take the berry and put it on a soft part, inner part of your arm or whatever. Don't put it like here, you'll be sorry, but put it like on the inner arm or part of your arm, and if 15-20 minutes later you don't have a reaction, it's probably safe for you, because if you put it on your skin, you'll get a reaction out of it if it's not good. So the same goes for a various plant. You know, then you'll know if you're allergic to it too. You put it on your skin, and then you get a rash, and go, oh, I shouldn't eat this because I'm allergic to it. But yeah, for the most part, that's a good way to test herbs if you're in a pinch and you don't have any other way to do it. So it works pretty well. You got Goldenseal everywhere through there. That's really good.
And where's Goldenseal?
Or goldenrod, I mean. I'm sorry.
Okay, goldenrod.
All these ones here.
They say down here, fennel.
Got some fennel? There is. Yarrow
Very
here.
short, but it looks like
This one's
Is
yarrow.
that what yarrow
it's
is?
a yarrow.
Yeah, yarrow flower. Roman soldiers used to use that. They took it to war with them. They put it in their little pouch because that's one of the plants that stops bleeding. If you got a cut or a scrape and you get the flower, you put the flower on it, it stops bleeding. But be advised, it feels like pouring alcohol on your body. It's the same. It's gonna hurt like crazy. It's gonna hurt really bad, but it does stop the bleeding. So if you've got a bad cut and you've got some yarrow in the yard, just the flower too, yeah.
It's also
Like-
good for colds and flus, I think.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, it's one of the best healing herbs there is around. If you can, now would be the time to actually harvest the seeds, and you can put it wherever you want for later.
Well, those
Yeah.
are dead already.
Yeah, that's the seeds here.
Uh-huh.
You can pass that around so everybody can see it. The tea isn't so bad either. This is actually a fairly decent tea. Oftentimes, yarrow is mixed with plantain in a salve. We have it actually in our salve. It has both yarrow and plantain and a bunch of other herbs, but simply for the healing factor and the blood stopping and all of that.
Put some peppermint or spearmint in with it. with
Sure,
the tea.
peppermint, absolutely, in our green salve. We sure do. Because that helps to bring the blood to the...
Even if you want to put put it in a tea, bring the flavor.
Yeah, absolutely. Dandelion. Can't find any chicory. We'll have to take them up front. When we get up front, we'll show you some of the chicory. And that one's the one you want to save the root for. If you have, I don't know how many people drink coffee, but it's considered a coffee substitute. But I don't substitute my coffee for it. It doesn't taste that good. But what you do with it when you get it up is you roast it to it like in your oven until it's nice and brown. Grind it up into like a powder, and then you'd mix it like you would your coffee. It's the same type of concentration. So you put a tablespoon in, you put a tablespoon of that, but it's got its own flavor. I'll tell you, most coffee, like the cheap coffee you buy, will have chicory in it as a filler because coffee is kind of expensive. Where chicory grows everywhere, and it's really easy to harvest and easy to process. Doesn't cost nearly as much as those beans, but yeah, it's. If you drink coffee every day, if you're one like me, I drink coffee every day. And if I decided one day to stop drinking coffee, I get what's called what I call a caffeine headache because I'm not having the caffeine in my body. What the chicory root will do if you drink that, it'll stop that headache and it'll prevent the headache from happening. And in fact, in other parts of the world, they use it for people that are coming down off of drugs, that are having issues with alcohol or drugs, because it helps with the chemical structure of the brain that addiction part, where you have that addiction and then the coming off part of it, it's helped for the symptoms for that. And so it's actually saved some people's lives, but it's definitely not the best tasting plant you can find. I'll tell you, you can mix it with dandelion. Now if you mix it with dandelion and you roast the dandelion root too, then it's not so bad. But chicory by itself is so bitter. It really is. Here, here's a flower for you, Leland. Save those. Those are seeds. There's a nice patch of creeping Charlie. All over.
How did you call it?
This one here is creeping Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
What is this?
A flower. That's the other one. That's a member of the daisy family.
Okay, it's not. I was trying to
Well,
think if that's
no.
that's not smart.
It is not. No, it doesn't have flowers that pretty. Smartweed is like a kind of an ugly reddish purple on the end. But daisies are good for like lung and congestion issues too. If you're having issues with like colds or having bronchial issues, it's good to clear all that stuff out. Most of the plants out here help with that. Oftentimes, a lot of the best weeds will be along your fence lines, because people don't typically mow very well against their fence lines, or the animals don't necessarily. There is some. I think this one's called Canada Thistle. If it has the purple flowers, if it has the purplish flower, that's Canada. And then you have the thistles that have the yellow flowers are called sow thistle, but they have the same properties. You know, if you can get them and grind them up and make an extract out of them or make a tea out of them, even with the thistle on them, it makes a good tea and a tonic for your kidneys.
You mean with the leaves and the flowers?
Yeah. It's kind of no fun to get, I'll tell you. But it does make it, they do make a good tea. And the teas for those they're not, some of the teas that some of these herbs make are just terrible. They taste terrible, even if you add sugar or honey, or they're awful. I mean, they really are. It certainly makes you not want to be sick, right? But the thistles and some of these others, they're actually a fairly sweet tea. And, you know, of course, they have all the nutrients, the vitamins and whatnot in there. So, you know, they help with that too. A lot of these have a lot of fiber, which help with your digestion as well. So,
the thistle.
oh yeah, thistles are loaded. And then they also, like, it's like the other one, they have just as much nutrients as spinach, or probably more than store-bought spinach. So you've got your vitamins A's and C's and you know, the iron and all the other stuff that's in there. Most of the time, a lot of these herbs will have a selenium, which you don't get in your diet, but you absolutely have to have as part of your essential diet. It causes other health issues down the road if you don't get enough selenium. And like
that would be in the sister plants.
Most of these plants out here have them.
Okay,
And yeah, most of the
like even other plants.
yeah, but you just don't find them in the stuff you buy in the grocery store, because you know everything's been processed out, unless they've added it in, and then the stuff that they add in is man-made, so it's not as good for you as the stuff that you get in nature. So
I was wishing I would find bone set.
I'm looking for it.
Back in the woods in the lowest spot.
Okay.
Have you seen boneset before?
I think I know how it looks.
We found, I think, 4 plants this year. So I managed to harvest 2, and I left the other 2 where they're at. Hopefully, it should have a big white flower on top. It looks like that ironweed. The leaves are almost identical to the ironweed, only the big flowers on top are white. They're like a
Well, I
real...
would like to plant some.
Yeah, if you can get some, save the seeds for sure. That's one of that would be a great herb to add with your comfrey. That comfrey,
Would that be a good tonic for the flu and stuff?
it's good for breaking fevers.
Like my brother-in-law would really think you need bone set tea for flu and stuff.
Yeah, it is. Well, I don't know about the antiviral properties, but I know it'll break a fever. And, you know, that's what they use it for. And it also helps heal faster. So if you have tears or even breaks, hence the bone set, it helps with that. Now they say that the only evidence they have is anecdotal evidence, which means somebody says that it made it heal faster. But if you heal 2 weeks faster than somebody with a broken bone, you know, somebody takes 6 weeks to heal, somebody takes 4 weeks.
Right over here we got a bones that we got elm trees there too.
Where did you see the bone?
Bones that's right from them.
Rose.
Over here.
Oh, okay. You did see that pretty good.
Yeah, you got really good. Oh, there it is. Oh my, that's a big one too. Good eye. Hope that deer doesn't get mad. Take his food away. Get a picture of that. That's bone set. There's bone set.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And I wouldn't have recognized it. But the leaves are almost not. Well,
They alternate back and forth. Yeah.
And they grow right through the leaves.
Mm-hmm. And then this one's really easy to harvest. When you're ready to harvest, you can do the root or the stem and all, or you can just take it and they all just pop right off.
You would use the flowers too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if you let it, you can take that back with you. If you let it dry, all of those will turn into seeds. Then you'll have your bone set seeds for next year. And some more nettles. Don't grab that one.
What's a purple one?
I think that's the aster I was talking about earlier. I don't know which aster it is. The purple ones.
Do you see some more poinsettias?
There was some along the fence down there, I think.
And there's some back there over up against that fence there too. Kind of back behind the raspberries.
It'll grow at a low spot, like along the creek or somewhere.
There's more here. That is not. Lots of goldenrod though. If you can save the red raspberry leaves, well, the raspberry leaves in general, but you have red ones in your garden, and if you have any red raspberries and you can save the leaves, those are really good for uterus, strengthening the toning and strengthening the uterus. It works for animals, it works for people. So if you have some women that are having problems with pregnancy, you know, maybe can't carry the baby to term or have issues like that, that's a great herb to use for toning the uterus, and it makes it so that's not quite a thing. It's also good for breastfeeding mothers, so because sometimes they have issues as well, you know, that comes with breastfeeding. It helps alleviate a lot of that.
Is this marshmallow root?
Oh, you got some marshmallow?
Not sure. Question on that. I haven't.
It sure looks like it.
I didn't recognize it.
Pause that.